Hope and Passion, episode. In the midst of this chaos, Tony couldn't help but wonder if Stella had been taking acting lessons on the side, her performance worthy of an Oscar nomination. He half expected to see paparazzi lurking in the bushes, ready to capture the drama for the evening news. As the police arrived, Tony couldn't shake the feeling that he'd stumbled into an episode of a reality TV show gone horribly wrong. He half expected a camera crew to pop out from behind the bushes, yelling, "Cut. Let's do that again, but this time with more emotion." When a neighbor offered to look after the kids, Tony couldn't help but wonder if they were auditioning for a sitcom spin-off. Coming this fall, The Misadventures of Tony and the Nosy Neighbor. And as Tony watched his children peer through the window, he couldn't help but feel like a character in a Shakespearean tragedy, his own kids unwitting players in a tale of betrayal and deceit. To believe or not to believe, that is the question, he mused, channeling his inner Hamlet amidst the chaos. But through it all, Tony remained steadfast in his commitment to his children, his resolve as unyielding as the punchline of a dad joke. Well, he thought, at least this gives me material for my stand-up comedy debut. Life's a punchline, a tale of two black eyes. Tony remained silent about the violence, fearing disbelief from other men and the social stigma attached to discussing it. He had come across research indicating that some police officers trivialize domestic violence against men, viewing male victims as pathetic figures. Eventually, Tony relocated to his own flat, endeavoring to rebuild his life. Despite his longing to see his children, he refrained from contact. After a few years, he felt the need for a fresh start and began seeking job opportunities in Kenya with the intention of returning. In the meantime in Kenya, Alice eagerly called Diane early in the morning, eager to hear the outcome of something important. Diane, being the tactful woman she is, assured Alice that everything had gone smoothly, though Tony's thoughts on the matter remained to be seen. Alice, a woman of 42, stood at 5'6", exuding elegance, eloquence, humor, intelligence, and wit. Alice held the role of assistant editor at Rainbow Fashion magazine. Her relationship with Sam began at a friend's graduation party shortly after they both completed university. 5 years prior, Alice made the difficult decision to leave her husband Sam when she caught him in bed with his secretary on their marital bed. Their marriage had been tumultuous, with Sam's infidelity being a recurring issue. Despite his indiscretions, Sam provided for their family, and Alice retained her job to maintain her sanity. Sam's history of infidelity extended even to their wedding day, where he found a moment to engage in extramarital activities with a colleague amidst the festivities. Alice initially blamed herself for his behavior and sought counseling, questioning whether her actions or affection were lacking. However, she later realized through counseling that Sam was prone to seeking excitement elsewhere. After enduring several bouts of sexually transmitted diseases due to Sam's unfaithfulness, Alice reached her breaking point. Despite her reluctance, she eventually found the strength to end the marriage. It was a Wednesday afternoon when she decided to leave work early due to a cold, craving some rest. Little did she know, she was about to uncover a harsh truth. Upon arriving home, she found the house help missing and sensed something amiss. Placing her handbag on the wall unit, she spotted a large brown handbag and a pair of brown high heels, neither belonging to her. Suspicion mounting, she ascended the stairs, where giggling emanated from her bedroom. Pushing open the door, she was met with the shocking sight of her naked husband entangled with his secretary on their marital bed. Livid, she confronted them both, incredulous at the audacity of their actions. "You must be joking, Sam. In our own home, on our own bed?" With disgust, she gathered the secretary's belongings, piece by piece, before storming out of the room. She hurried outside, snatching the brown handbag on her way, and made a beeline for the rubbish pit. Spotting Waiganjo, the gardener, sweeping nearby, she called out to him. "Waiganjo, could you please burn this rubbish?" Waiganjo, understanding her urgency, swiftly retrieved his lighter and rushed to the pit. Gathering some papers from his pile, he used them to start the fire. Returning inside, she confronted the naked secretary with fury. "Get out of my house, you despicable woman. Leave immediately. You she-goat." The secretary hesitated, but Alice's swift action, hurling a ceramic ornament, spurred her into motion. As the secretary paused at the door to request her clothes, Alice coldly informed her, "They are in the pit, burning with the rest of the rubbish." Seeing the secretary attempting to take Sam's shirt, Alice snapped, "Don't you dare take anything from this house that doesn't belong to you." Sam attempted to reason with her, pleading, "Please, let the girl cover herself." In response, Alice hurled a flower vase in his direction, warning, "Don't you dare speak. I haven't even started with you yet. You blistering he-goat." Frustrated, Sam raised his voice, exclaiming, "Snap out of it, woman." In retaliation, Alice threw a bowl, narrowly missing him, before issuing a stern command, "Don't you move a muscle if you value your manhood." She then escorted the secretary, still unclothed, outside the gate, instructing the security guard not to assist her in any way if he valued his job. Upon returning inside, Alice refrained from taking further action, realizing her intense anger could lead to regrettable consequences, especially with her children to consider. Turning to Sam, she ordered, "Leave this house immediately and refrain from speaking to me. I need time to think." All he could salvage were his trousers, shirt, and shoes. Though he attempted to grab the car keys, Alice beat him to it, tossing them out the window where they landed in the flower bush below. In the following days, she wept, grappling with the pain of betrayal. Determined to move forward, she sought legal counsel to initiate divorce proceedings before he could return. 3 days later, she enlisted the gardener to search for the keys. A week passed before she reached out to him, informing him it was time to retrieve his car. As Diane and Alice reveled in their Saturday hangout, they couldn't help but marvel at the contrast between their leisurely activities and their college days, where their biggest concern was cramming for exams and avoiding cafeteria food that resembled science experiments gone wrong. "Ah, the good old days," Diane remarked, raising her glass of fruit punch in a mock toast to their youthful escapades. Meanwhile, Faith, the eternal optimist of the group, couldn't resist interjecting with her trademark humor. "Remember that time we tried to cook dinner for the first time and ended up ordering takeout after setting off the fire alarm?" she quipped, eliciting laughter from the group as they reminisced about their culinary misadventures. Thabai, chiming in from across the pond, added her own humorous anecdotes about navigating British culture, from learning to decipher the Queen's English to mastering the art of queuing without inadvertently starting a riot. "You think Nairobi traffic is bad? Try the London Underground during rush hour," she joked, prompting sympathetic nods and knowing chuckles from her friends back home. As the afternoon stretched into evening and the aroma of grilled meat wafted through the air, the quartet couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of their friendship, forged through years of shared laughter, tears, and countless rounds of gossip over cups of steaming chai. "Here's to us," Alice declared, raising her glass in a toast. "May our bond be as enduring as Nthabai's love for British tea and Diane's obsession with Tony's irresistible smile." At 6:30 p.m., Diane and her children departed for home, knowing the kids would spend the next 4 days at their grandma's during the holiday break. As they packed their belongings that evening, Diane's phone unexpectedly rang. It was Tony. "Hi Diane, how are you?" Tony inquired. "I'm fine, how about you?" Diane responded. They engaged in a 10-minute conversation, during which Tony confirmed their plans for Sunday afternoon, to which Diane eagerly agreed. That night, Diane drifted off to sleep with a smile, grateful for Tony's continued sensitivity and care. The following morning, Diane rose early, opting out of church to prepare for the day's itinerary. With the kids ready and their bags packed, they embarked on the drive to Muthiga, where Diane's parents resided. En route, the kids tuned into their iPods while Diane hummed along to the radio. Arriving just as her parents returned from church, Diane swiftly made her exit, only to be intercepted by her curious mother. "Spill the beans," her mom insisted, prompting Diane to respond with a puzzled, "What beans?" "You've always been a terrible liar," her mother remarked, noticing a distinct glow about Diane. Despite her denial and claims of simply enjoying upbeat music in the car, her mother sensed there was more to the story. Nevertheless, whatever it was seemed to bring Diane an unparalleled happiness she hadn't seen in years. Returning to Westlands, Diane couldn't help but sing along joyfully during the drive. Upon arriving home, she wasted no time in taking a refreshing shower. That morning, she had carefully chosen an outfit, a simple yet elegant long halter-neck red dress adorned with an orchid flower at the hem. With her long hair cascading down, she secured it to one side with a flower-accented hair clip. Completing the ensemble with matching slingback shoes and handbag, she was ready to go. Approaching the venue, Diane's heart raced with anticipation. Doubts crept in as she wondered if perhaps she had misjudged the situation and he wouldn't show up. The mere thought filled her with anxiety, stirring memories of the pain she endured when Tony departed for the US. She parked her car and hesitated, considering the option of turning back. Just then, Alice's call came through. "Are you there yet?" Alice inquired. "I've just parked outside, but I think I've made a mistake." "I'm thinking of leaving," Diane admitted. As Diane bravely made her way into the venue, she couldn't help but feel like a character in a dramatic romance novel, with Alice playing the role of the wisecracking best friend urging her on to her happily ever after. "Go get him, Tiger." Alice cheered from the sidelines, her words a mix of encouragement and comedic flair. With Alice's pep talk ringing in her ears, Diane strutted past the reception like a warrior heading into battle, her determination rivaling that of a marathon runner reaching the finish line. Time to face the music, she thought, her heart drumming a rhythm that could rival any rock concert. As she approached Tony's table, she couldn't shake the feeling of being in a spy movie, with every move calculated and every glance loaded with meaning. "Agent Diane reporting for duty," she joked silently to herself, channeling her inner secret agent as she locked eyes with Tony across the room. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, like a well-rehearsed comedy routine, with Diane delivering punchlines with the precision of a seasoned stand-up comedian. Who knew dating could be this entertaining, she mused, her laughter mingling with Tony's like a perfectly harmonized duet. And as they sat there, lost in each other's company, Diane couldn't help but feel like she was living out a scene from a Hollywood romance, with Tony playing the charming leading man and she, the dazzling leading lady. "Looks like I've found my leading man after all," she thought, her heart doing somersaults as Tony flashed her that irresistible smile. Throughout the afternoon, they delved into their shared history, reminiscing about both the highs and lows. Laughter filled the air as Diane found herself easily conversing with Tony once again, stirring up old feelings that made her uneasy. Fortunately, their departure was timely as they both had work commitments the next day. Tony, ever the gentleman, escorted Diane home before heading to his own residence nearby. Upon arriving home, Diane found solace in the quiet emptiness of her house. With only the housekeeper present, sound asleep, she took a shower and retired to bed, her mind still buzzing with the events of the day. Monday proved to be a demanding day for Diane as she prepared for a crucial presentation to a particularly challenging client. Determined to excel, she meticulously chose a skirt suit she had purchased during a trip to London at Debenhams, recalling the fond memories with her cousin. Amidst breakfast, she reviewed her presentation once more, aiming to mentally prepare herself despite Tony persistently infiltrating her thoughts, making concentration a struggle. Arriving at work early to avoid the morning rush, Diane found herself greeted only by the receptionist. Settling into her office, she began her preparations. 20 minutes later, her secretary arrived, and soon after, Diane headed to the boardroom, tasking her secretary along the way to organize refreshments including teas, coffee, biscuits, croissants, and fruits.
As she readied the boardroom for the presentation, Diane received a call from one of the bosses informing her of his inability to attend due to family commitments. This news unsettled her, as she was accustomed to having one of the partners by her side during presentations to major clients. With the other partner away in South Africa and another in Mombasa for a crucial meeting, she realized she would be flying solo. Despite the added pressure, she resolved to maintain control and professionalism. As Diane prepared for her presentation, she couldn't help but feel like a gladiator gearing up for battle, except instead of armor and a sword, she wielded PowerPoint slides and a laser pointer. "Time to slay those spreadsheets," she joked to herself, her nerves tingling with a mix of excitement and trepidation. With the clients running late due to a traffic snarl caused by an unexpected fender bender, Diane saw it as a sign from the universe to sneak in some extra mental prep time. "Looks like the traffic gods are on my side today," she quipped, grateful for the cosmic intervention. When the clients finally arrived, Diane greeted them with a smile that could rival the sun, her enthusiasm masking any lingering nerves. "Welcome, esteemed guests. Please, come in and let's talk business over some croissants and caffeine," she said with a flourish, ushering them into the boardroom like a seasoned hostess. As she launched into her presentation, Diane felt a surge of confidence wash over her, like a superhero donning her cape before taking flight. With each slide, she delivered her points with the precision of a ninja throwing stars, leaving her audience dazzled and impressed. And when the applause broke out at the end, Diane couldn't help but feel like she had just won the Super Bowl of presentations. "Take that, corporate world," she thought triumphantly, basking in the glow of her success like a champion on the podium. With the presentation behind her and her aunt's well-being checked on during the day, Diane headed home feeling like she had conquered the world. "Another day, another victory," she joked to herself, already looking forward to whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. Upon returning, Diane enjoyed a quick shower before indulging in a hot mug of Milo while catching up on social media. Just as she began to drift off, her phone rang. It was Alice. "Hi Diane, how are you? Do you mind if I come over?" Alice asked. "Of course not, come on over," Diane replied. "We'll be there shortly. I'm bringing a friend," Alice added. Diane, sensing the urgency in Alice's request, roused herself, though it was already late. Navigating the roads at this hour wasn't ideal, but she fervently hoped for their safety as she awaited their arrival. Alice arrived at Diane's just before midnight, accompanied by their friend Faith, whose appearance startled Diane. Faith bore the unmistakable marks of a recent altercation, resembling a panda with two black eyes. Diane, having anticipated their arrival, heard Alice's car pull up and greeted them at the door with concern evident in her voice. "What happened?" she asked, embracing Faith. Diane was taken aback, as she and their circle of friends had always perceived Faith's marriage as enviable. They had believed her to be fortunate in having a seemingly wonderful husband. Serving them strong drinks, Diane fetched her courvoisier, typically reserved for special occasions, recognizing the gravity of the situation. Before delving into the details, she insisted that they all stay the night. As Faith recounted her ordeal, she revealed a side of her husband that she had kept hidden from everyone. He exhibited what they would come to nickname as bipolar behavior, charming in public but monstrous at home, using her as a punching bag for perceived transgressions. His jealousy was relentless, sparking fights over innocent interactions with other men. He controlled every aspect of her life, from her appearance to her social interactions, isolating her from her former career as a pharmacist and restricting her movements to places he approved. Even her outings with friends were monitored, with him dropping her off and picking her up to assert his control while avoiding public scrutiny of his behavior. Faith's husband's peculiarities were enough to raise eyebrows faster than a bad to pay in a hurricane. When he handed her money for clothes shopping, it came with a laundry list of conditions, including a strict dress code that seemed more fitting for a time-traveling grandma than a modern woman. The poor woman had to return outfits because they weren't straight and free, transforming her wardrobe into a walking advertisement for orthopedic wear. Even her makeup choices were under siege, with nail polish and lip gloss banned faster than a vending machine swallowing your last dollar. Her friends, noticing the sudden shift from fashionista to frump, gently ribbed her about her newfound love for free clothes, as if her husband's fashion restrictions were a cost-saving measure straight out of a bargain bin. Faith's excuses for her husband's odd behavior were more creative than a toddler's finger painting. She'd blame her absence from girly afternoons on everything from mysterious black eyes to unexpected bruising, conveniently omitting the fact that James's food preferences were more temperamental than a diva at a karaoke contest. Speaking of James's food fussiness, it was enough to make Gordon Ramsay's head spin faster than a rotisserie chicken. Suddenly, he developed a laundry list of culinary aversions longer than a CVS receipt, rejecting everything from mashed potatoes to perfectly good sausages with the precision of a Michelin-starred critic. Faith had to cook fresh meals every morning, as if she were running a 24-hour diner exclusively for James's picky palate. And the cherry on top of this bizarre Sunday? Despite their efforts to start a family, Faith and James remained childless, despite enough poking and prodding from doctors to make a voodoo doll blush. It was a mystery that even Sherlock Holmes would find baffling, leaving poor Faith feeling more like a lab rat than a prospective mom. Faith's journey to parenthood resembled a marathon of medical tests longer than the queue at a theme park on a summer day. Her cousin, residing across the pond in jolly old London, became her unofficial fertility coach, dishing out a laundry list of tests to ask for faster than a cashier scanning groceries at peak hour. The gynecologist, playing ping-pong with her appointments, sent her on a wild goose chase for tests like a detective chasing clues in a mystery novel. From pelvic ultrasounds to hormone imbalance checks, Faith felt like she was auditioning for a role in a medical drama. But it didn't stop there. Oh no. She was subjected to more probes than the Mars rover, with procedures like hysterosalpingograms and laparoscopies, giving her insides a thorough inspection, as if they were searching for hidden treasure in a labyrinth. Despite all the poking and prodding, the only thing they found was menorrhagia, which Faith brushed off like a minor inconvenience, akin to finding a raisin in a fruitcake. And then there was the fiasco with her husband, whose insecurities were bigger than a toddler's temper tantrum. He threw a fit like a toddler denied candy when he heard a harmless compliment from his friend about Faith's appearance. His reaction was more over the top than a Bollywood musical, resulting in a physical assault that made Faith see stars faster than a paparazzi flashbulb. Faith's tearful tale left Diane and Alice speechless, like deer caught in headlights. But they rallied together like a superhero squad, vowing to stand by their friend through thick and thin, even if it meant ignoring James's calls faster than a spam email. With the weight of the world on their shoulders, Diane and Alice made makeshift beds faster than a DIY enthusiast, ready to face the challenges ahead with the solidarity of sisters in arms. And as they drifted off to sleep in the wee hours of the morning, they knew that come what may, they were in this together, like a trio of warriors ready to take on whatever life threw their way. At the crack of dawn, when roosters were still debating whether to crow or hit the snooze button, Diane made a valiant effort to negotiate with her boss for a day off. With more charm than a smooth-talking salesman, she managed to secure not just 1, but 3 days of freedom. It was a victory worthy of a victory dance, though she settled for a victorious cup of coffee instead. Meanwhile, poor Alice faced a battle with her boss that rivaled David versus Goliath. Though she only managed to wrangle a half-day and 2 more days off, she made the most of it, armed with Diane's borrowed attire and a determination to conquer the day. As the morning unfolded, Faith was granted the rare luxury of sleep, like a mythical creature emerging from a centuries-long slumber. When Alice awoke from her beauty sleep looking more refreshed than a morning dewdrop, the trio settled into a heart-to-heart in the comfort of Diane's living room, sharing tales of trials and triumphs. Alice's escape from the office felt like a jailbreak orchestrated by a cunning mastermind, complete with a quick stop at her own home to gather essentials. With her kids spending time with their other parent, Alice had the freedom to be the supportive friend Faith needed, though not without dodging the persistent calls of her estranged husband like a seasoned dodgeball champion. Amidst the chaos, Diane juggled the responsibilities of a modern-day superhero, checking in on her kids and updating her aunt on the latest developments. Her aunt, no stranger to marital woes, offered a sympathetic ear, having once weathered the storm of domestic discord herself, though her husband's demise took an unexpected twist straight out of a dark comedy, leaving Diane's jaw dropping faster than a cartoon character plummeting off a cliff. Earlier in the evening, Tony dialed Diane's number with all the enthusiasm of a kid calling dibs on the last slice of pizza. He was eager to catch up and bid her a good night, blissfully unaware of the whirlwind of drama unfolding at Diane's doorstep. Diane, in her quick thinking, concocted a tale fit for a soap opera, claiming a distressed friend had taken refuge under her roof for the foreseeable future. Tony, being the stand-up guy he is, offered his well wishes and bid them all a peaceful night, none the wiser about the real chaos brewing. With Tony temporarily out of the picture, Alice and Faith hatched a plan to spill the beans when the time was right. After all, Tony may not have known Sam, but Faith was a familiar face in his world. The trio stayed up into the wee hours of the morning, engaged in a battle of wits against sleep itself, determined to keep Faith's troubles at bay for as long as possible. Come morning, Alice and Diane sprang out of bed with the energy of toddlers on Christmas morning, ready to tackle the day ahead. Over a leisurely breakfast, they strategized a plan to venture out into the wilds of Sarit Center, armed with shopping bags and a mission to rescue Faith from her wardrobe woes. With Diane's aunt dispensing wisdom like a sage oracle, the trio soaked up her advice like sponges, grateful for her comforting presence in the storm of uncertainty. Back at home, as they prepped a feast fit for royalty, the watchman interrupted their culinary escapades with news of an unwanted visitor at the gate. Like a well-oiled machine, they swiftly shut down any notion of James gaining entry, invoking the watchman's loyalty with the promise of a secure job and the occasional Christmas bonus. Despite James's persistent hunking and fruitless attempts to bribe his way in, the trio stood firm, united in their resolve to keep him at bay. That evening, amidst the backdrop of serious discussions, Faith made a decision as bold as a squirrel stealing nuts from under a watchful cat's nose. She declared her plan to seek refuge with her parents in Nakuru, adamant that she'd sooner dance with a lion than risk another encounter with her volatile husband. With their game plan set, they hit the hay earlier than a bunch of nocturnal owls, eager to rise with the roosters and make tracks to Nakuru at the crack of dawn. Come morning, they were up and at a.m. faster than a cheetah chasing its breakfast, ready to hit the road to Nakuru. With Faith's folks none the wiser about the impending family reunion, they opted for a stealthy departure to avoid setting off any parental alarm bells. Diane and Alice took turns behind the wheel, navigating the journey like seasoned road warriors, with Faith steadfast in her resolve to leave her past behind. Their journey included pit stops more frequent than a toddler's bathroom breaks, with detours for scenic views and fueling up on roadside delicacies. By the time they reached Nakuru, Faith's mom had whipped up a feast fit for a queen, a tradition reminiscent of days gone by when visits home were filled with warmth and love. Despite Faith's attempts to conceal her battle scars under a mask of makeup, her mom's maternal instincts saw through the facade like a hawk spotting a field mouse. A scream worthy of a horror movie pierced the air, summoning Faith's dad faster than a superhero answering the call of duty. His reaction was a mix of shock and fury, his trembling hands a testament to the rage brewing within. With emotions running high, they sought solace in each other's embrace, a family united in facing the challenges ahead. As they settled into the familiar comforts of home, Faith's mom served up glasses of freshly squeezed orange juice, a symbol of love and reassurance in times of turmoil. In the midst of the drama, Faith's dad tried dialing James, but James treated his phone like he was playing hard to get, no response. At dinner, Faith's mom presented a meal that ended up being more of a food sculpture session than a feast. Appetites were as absent as a vegan at a barbecue. Post-dinner, they shuffled off to the living room for story time with a twist. Faith unveiled her own saga, complete with a live demo of bruises, like she was revealing the latest fashion in pain. It was a rare sight for Diane to see a man cry. Yet, there they were, witnessing the transformation of their resident tough guy into a weeping willow, sparking a group cry fest. Pulling himself together like he was doing up his emotional shoelaces, he decided to rally the elders for a let's talk session at James's folks' place. They picked a date, and by late afternoon, Diane and Alice were off to Nairobi, their car loaded with enough vegetables to start a small farm, proving that you can, in fact, try to solve emotional turmoil with agriculture. The drive was as quiet as a mime convention, save for some ambient tunes. This time, they only stopped for a driver swap, no detours, just straight to Westlands for a sleepover at Diane's, because nothing says a crisis management like a good old slumber party. Diane, multitasking like a pro, phoned Tony back once she was safely indoors, weaving through the conversation to land a dinner date amid the chaos. They rang Faith to confirm their safe arrival, and she expressed her gratitude like she just won the friend lottery. Alice, acting like a Secret Service agent, equipped Faith with a spare mobile chip for top-secret communications. Exhausted, they devoured whatever culinary masterpiece the house help had conjured, showered away the day's drama, and crashed into bed, probably dreaming of a world where the biggest problem was deciding what to have for breakfast. The night zipped by faster than a squirrel on an espresso shot, with Diane hitting the snooze button on her alarm clock like she was participating in an Olympic sport. She finally emerged from her slumber, thanks to Alice, who was already up and about, fresh as a morning daisy. Diane, ever the early bird, swooped into her office to perform her sacred morning ritual, brewing tea and diving into the digital sea of emails and letters. "Good morning, Diane," came the voice of Stacy, her secretary, sneaking up on her like a ninja. Diane nearly jumped out of her skin, a reminder that her reflexes were more a startled cat than a seasoned ninja. "James Karunja is at the reception wanting to see you," Stacy reported, with the urgency of someone announcing an unscheduled visit from royalty. Despite Stacy's diplomatic attempts to turn him away for lack of an appointment, James was sticking to his spot like he was glued to the floor. Diane, sensing the need for a little more muscle, decided to enlist some male colleagues as her personal backup dancers, just in case James's temper decided to throw a solo performance. She briefed her colleague on the mini-drama at reception, and like a well-orchestrated flash mob, they planned to subtly loiter outside her office. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, like and share. See you next week for episode 3.